That's exactly right. I'm sort of like a contrarian by nature, I'm sure. And so, yeah, early on in the offseason, I'm thinking like, this team could be pretty good. They could win 10, 11 games. And now it's like everybody's getting excited. And I'm like, okay, let's slow down a little bit. It sort of just like sets my radar off. It sort of reminds me of the 2018 offseason, coming off the Super Bowl, when it was like, wow, you know what? On paper, this roster looks better than the Super Bowl roster. Yeah. And we're all thinking like, oh, they add Michael Bennett to this group. Carson's going to be back, all this stuff. And obviously, like, it never goes according to plan. This is football. There are going to be injuries and other complications. And so
You've got McMullen Jody McDonald here with Young Birds 365, and we have a key addition for the final half hour, 35 minutes here of the show. Our buddy Bo Wulf from The Athletic, good enough to hop aboard. You look like you're ready to go out and have a catch. Would
always
that be accurate, bud?
You always got to be ready. Where's the glove, Bo?
You never know when you're going to get called on. Yeah, I go to practice. John knows this. I go to practice ready to step in as the number 3 quarterback.
Right. You never know, man. We should all be getting ready to be the punter. That one's still a bit questionable to me, Bo. Why there's no competition? But
I think Jimmy Kempski would be most interested if one of us could step into the competition. Then he can track it.
The training camp obviously a week away. I want to get your thoughts because I go through these sort of little hiccups during the off season. I start to say to myself, well, Howie's had a really good off season, and this is a pretty talented roster. And then fans start to get a little bit nuts, and all of a sudden this is the greatest team that ever set foot. And I start saying, whoa, start slowing down on these expectations. Do you have these sort of hiccups in the off season where you go through these periods where you say this team's better than people think, and now I think people are just over the top with the expectations?
That's exactly right. I'm sort of like a contrarian by nature, I'm sure. And so, early on in the offseason, I'm thinking like, this team could be pretty good. They could win 10, 11 games. And now it's like everybody's getting excited. And I'm like, okay, let's slow down a little bit. It sort of just like sets my radar off. It sort of reminds me of the 2018 offseason, coming off the Super Bowl, when it was like, wow, you know what? On paper, this roster looks better than the Super Bowl roster. Yeah. And we're all thinking like, oh, they add Michael Bennett to this group. Carson's going to be back, all this stuff. And obviously, like, it never goes according to plan. This is football. There are going to be injuries and other complications. And so I think that Howie Roseman did have a great offseason. Everything he did made a lot of sense. He improved the team in the short term without borrowing too much from the long term. He maintained flexibility. They're like deep everywhere, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go according to plan. And obviously, we expect that like Jalen Hurts is going to continue improving, but what if he doesn't? What if other things happen? So yes, I am very much like on alert that things are not going to go as well as maybe we expect them to right now.
All right, Bo, I want you to hop into the mindset of an individual Eagle player. And I'm not asking this question because I don't have faith that it's going to work out, but it's something that's never been dealt with before. And that's Dallas Goedert. He comes in as, for the first time, the number 1 tight end. Last year, you could make the argument he used Zach Ertz. Ertz certainly had the seniority, and we speculated that he could be dealt, and that's exactly what did happen. But it co-tight, even if you want to say co-number 1 tight ends last year, it was an unquestioned number 1 status for Goedert. That's the case this year. And not only is he number 1, is number 1 and a massive drop-off to number 2. So he's coming in with expectations, with the number 1 slot, and with the little niggling at the back of his brain that, I can't afford to get hurt here. Because if I do, we could be in a spot of trouble because my backup is not ready to step in and do Dallas Goedert-like things. Where do you think Dallas Goedert's head is at right now?
I think he's probably like figuring out what he's going to do with all his money. I mean, he got this new contract. He's moving out of the shared house with Avonte Maddox. He gets to live by himself. He's probably figuring out what it's like to be an adult. I mean, that's what he's That's what he's doing. I don't know. I think he should have a big season, but they've also got a lot of other weapons. I don't think that. I mean, Dallas Goedert, you're right. There's a huge drop off to a number 2 tight end, but like if Dallas Goedert got hurt for an extended period of time, I would imagine they just wouldn't feature the tight end. They'd go more, 3-4 wide, and you've still got, AJ Brown, Quez Watkins, and Devontae Smith, and maybe Zach Pascal gets on the field more instead of going to Jack Stoll all of a sudden. So, obviously he's a very important player, but I think the offense, they have enough weapons. If you're just thinking of weapons as opposed to like position specific tight ends, I think they're pretty deep.
Who's going to be this year's NovaCare darling, Bo Wulf? Femi Moma back in the
I think
day.
This is an easy answer.
Yeah, Paul Turner. You got Henry Josie. Who was that kid from Rutgers? I couldn't think of his name. He was a 6'6" receiver. Everybody, you remember who I'm talking about? I can't think of his name. It's driving me crazy. But there's always, and it's usually a receiver. So I do think it's pretty obvious, especially what went on in.
I do think it's easy. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I mean, think about, as you said, receiver. Everybody loves receivers.
Yeah.
Training camp is set up for guys to be effective in space.
Yeah.
Guys who are quick and can make a little juke. And I mean, let's be fair. Short white guy, people are gonna like that. So, Britton Covey, the undrafted guy from Utah, I think is the overwhelming favorite to be the training camp darling here as we enter camp. And I think he does have a real chance to make the team as the return specialist. You watch his.
They need a punt returner.
They do, and Jalen Reagor is not super reliable back there. He's made a few plays as a punt returner in his career, but he's not super dependable. Covey could potentially be that. He was a very productive returner in college. I'm always wary of guys who are much older than their college competition, but for a return specialist, I would imagine that doesn't make quite as much of a difference. So I think he is definitely a player to watch.
Now he's got some competition though, Bo, because Devin Allen, the minute he runs by somebody, if he catches the football, it's gonna be quite the battle.
People were very upset about that disqualification.
Oh yeah. I find it ironic. I said, he's going from a sport where you're getting penalized for a false start and for technology and the naked eye. He's going to a $13 billion industry where they use index cards to tell us first down. So it should be easier for him.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Do you think that it comes down to Covey or Reagor? That one's going to be on the team and the other one isn't?
Or, I think it's possible that neither is on the team, for sure. I think Reagor, like if anybody around the league offers anything for Jalen Reagor, I think the Eagles would take it. I think it's unlikely they're going to straight cut him just because of the cap hit, and they might as well keep him around. And Howie Roseman has been slow to sort of admit defeat on bust picks in the past. But I think if anybody was willing to trade, their own disappointing early round pick for Reagor, I think the Eagles would jump all over that. Just think about is he going to play over Zach Pascal as a number 4 receiver or Quez Watkins? No. He hasn't earned that, and he hasn't, even if he's had flashes in camp in the past, it's never translated to the field. I don't really trust him as a return man. I just I don't see a path to relevance really for Reagor with the Eagles anymore.
Yeah, and it's kind of counterintuitive, and I think our buddy Chris Franklin was the first to bring it up, so I'll give Chris the tip of the Bo Wulf's cap. But I think for an Eagles fan, it might be better if Zach Pascal's playing more than Quez Watkins, for the reason that probably indicates they're winning games in the fourth quarter rather than losing games. What's your thought? Because if they're in the 4-minute offense, they're going to try to run the football. They're going to want Zach Pascal on the field. So even though it's counterintuitive to me, more Zach Pascal might mean more success than if Quez Watkins is out there. Thoughts on that?
My initial thought is that I never want a receiver on the field just to block. I'm not.
I agree.
I'm not. That doesn't excite me. I'd rather spread the field and run the ball than have Zach Pascal on the field instead of Quez Watkins. But I think what Zach Pascal gives them is the ability to keep everybody fresh, right? You can be three, line up in 11 personnel, but by rotating those 4 guys, everybody stays a little bit fresh. Devontae Smith doesn't have to play 100% of the snaps. A.J. Brown doesn't have to play 100% of the snaps. And A.J. Brown has had, a history of nagging injuries. Yeah. So I think that is a real concern for them moving forward to try to keep him healthy. Maybe, Pascal plays and Quez Watkins plays. I think Quez Watkins could have a big year because think about like what he brings as a home run hitter, and considering that opposing defenses are going to be so focused on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, like what resources can you really devote to the number 4 option on the opposing offense? And if Quez Watkins gets past you, I mean, he will get past you. He's very explosive. I think people underrate what he did last year. I mean, he had 600 plus yards receiving. I think nobody would expect that. And I don't know. I like Quez Watkins. I like him much more than Zach Pascal. I get the point that Chris is making. You're right. Like, it would be better if they're in a 4-minute offense than playing from behind. But
it's not exciting.
Give me Quez Watkins on the field over Zach Pascal.
Yeah, it's definitely not exciting. But I would say from the Eagles' perspective, and this season in a lot of ways is going to be about the quarterback. So we got to talk about the quarterback. You're mentioning, on paper, I agree with you. You have A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have Dallas Goedert. You got to obviously stop them first and foremost if you're an opposing defense. The Eagles have a quarterback that's capable of going to the 4th option. I mean, to me, it's, all right, you're going to game plan for, as Nick would say, now it's going to be 11. Last year it was 6 and 88. Now it's going to be 11, 6, 88. How much is going to be there for Quez Watkins?
Well, just because, he's the number 4 option in like hierarchy doesn't mean he's the number 4 option in a specific play. Like I would give Sirianni enough credit to think that he'll be able to dial some stuff up for Quez Watkins. But you're right. I mean, he is not going to be the focus of the game plan. That's definitely true. But I think there will be some opportunities for him to have some big plays.
All right, Bo. We know that the Eagles made their big offseason move in acquiring A.J. Brown. You go out, you give up what you give up to get a player like that, and then, oh, by the way, extend him at $25 million per. Oh, yeah, he's going to get the football. We're debating on how much Quez is going to get it. We start with A.J. Brown's going to get it thrown his way plenty, and they should. So he's replacing Jalen Reagor. Quez is going to get what he's going to get. Devontae's going to get what he's going to get. Goddard's going to get plenty at tight end. But the swap out is A.J. Brown for Jalen Reagor. That equates to that many more passes being thrown this year. And if they're throwing that many more passes, that means that less runs by Jalen Reagor. And last year, his runs were pretty darn productive. A lot of first downs, 20-yard gains, moving the ball down the field. Is there a chance that the Eagles' offense this year, even being more productive in the pass game, will miss the runs that Jalen Hurts contributed to this year's team that we might not be putting enough of an emphasis on? Yeah, but we're not going to have Jalen running it as effectively as he did last year. Does that bother you at all?
I think the benefit of having Jalen Hurts being a credible running threat doesn't even necessarily need to mean that he's running the ball a lot. I think a lot of what he does, like his presence on the field, is opening things up for the running back, because defenses have to account for the possibility that Jalen Hurts is going to run the ball. I don't expect that they're going to lock him up and say don't run. It's part of what makes him an effective quarterback. It's like a huge part of what makes him good. And I think it's possible we may see them dial back the called runs a little bit. But what Jalen Hurts is good at, beyond just running the ball, is he's very good at like protecting himself as a runner. And he knocked those fumbles way down last year after fumbling a lot as a rookie. I think he does a pretty good job usually of feeling out when it is that he should run. If it's not a pre-called run, like when he's escaping the pocket. And he does a good job of he'll run out of bounds or he'll get down. And so I think you're probably right that we might see it a little bit less than last year because they have more weapons in the passing game. But I think it would be short-sighted to like take that away from his game when it is part of what makes him a good quarterback, if he is one.
Let's talk about the play calling, Bo, in the shift to Shane Steichen. You were there when Nick was talking about it and diagramming plays on the wall and Florida plays and insisting that it doesn't matter if it's Shane Steichen or Brian Johnson or Dom DeSandro or Julian Laurie or Bo Wulf. They're going to be run the same way no matter who's calling the plays. Is it a bigger deal? Is it a not that big of a deal? What's your take on a young head coach who was brought in as a play caller, pretty much giving it up by midseason? I think it's a positive. I like CEO coaches. What's your thoughts on the shift in play calling?
I think it's a positive because it shows some self-reflection and some self-diagnosis that, like, for him to recognize that there was a little bit too much going on. I think it is true that we might maybe make a little bit too much of it because it is still, Sirianni's offense. The plays are his plays, and it's not like that. It's not as important as designing the plays versus when to call them, right? And there is that open communication. But I also think he's downplaying it to a degree as well. He wants to make it seem like it's not a big deal. Obviously, it is a big deal. We asked him about this last summer. Like, you're a first-time head coach, a first-time play caller. You're really going to do all this stuff, in your first time. And I think the same thing happened with Doug Peterson in 2016. That he went through the same process and said he was going to do everything. And after 3 games in the preseason was like, yeah, this is too much. And so I think it shows growth that Sirianni is willing to look into things and see what he can do better. But I think it probably does Shane Steichen light your football love on fire as a mind? I'm not so sure that's the case. But I think I guess if we want to say that the results from last year speak for themselves, that was pretty good.
All right, Bo, I want to flip it over to the other side of the ball and talk some defense. 5 weeks into the season, they got a Dallas Cowboy team coming into town for week number 6. So you're working on a preview piece for that week.
And a long time in advance.
Yeah.
It's give me a little break.
Oh, no.
Get it in the can, Bo. Get it in the can.
You're that good that we have faith that you've already started to plot out what your articles are going to look like.
That is not true, I promise.
Come on, play along with me here, Wulf. The week leading up to the Cowboy game, which phrase is going to more fit the article you're going to do on the Eagles' 3rd-round draft pick, their rookie linebacker?
Okay.
Working through the startup costs of a rookie or significant contributions at linebacker from a rookie. Which do you think is more likely a phrase that you would use to describe Nakobe Dean's first 5 weeks in the NFL?
How about Dean's list? A look, every play that Nakobe has made for this improving Eagles defense. I don't know. I think he's going to be a factor early on. I do. The Kaiser White thing is I thought that was a very good signing. It made a lot of sense. He's exactly what you would expect that they needed for this defense. The defense last year was so soft over the middle of the field. That's really where they got killed, on 3rd down after 3rd down after 3rd down. It wasn't even that those guys weren't asked to cover. It was that they were we're just giving up so much space. And I think that's because Gannon didn't trust those guys to cover. White's a former safety. That made sense. But this is to John's question earlier. My sort of spider sense has been tingling about it all along, because why was it that he was available for such a reasonable price for a Chargers defense that is going all in on their defense and is pushing their chips to the middle of the table? Why were they willing to let him go? We've seen in the past that free agent linebackers are not necessarily easy transitions, even if we expect them to be pretty solid. Now, White is a slight step above from the Eric Wilsons of the world, but I'm not so sure that he's going to step in and be a dominant factor right away. I think Nakobe Dean has a chance to be the guy who plays the most snaps of all 3 linebackers this season. I think if he's as good and as ready as the Eagles think he is, I think there's a chance he's like very involved in this defense from week 1 on. And John, did you watch that like the cooking challenge?
I did.
Chop thing that they.
Yeah.
What a dynamic personality, leader. What a leader. I'm in. I'm like that told me 2 things. I'm in on Nakobe Dean and I'm out on Carson Strong.
He's really smart too, Nakobe Dean. Really smart, I don't know if people realize that, but yeah. From, the Eagles could have 2 very smart, very instinctive linebackers for the first time in a long time. But I do think there's a lot of, is it going to be Nakobe at middle linebacker? I think TJ Edwards is the most underrated player on this team. I think he's going to be the middle linebacker. I think if Nakobe gets out there quickly, I'm with you. It's going to be for Kaiser White, not
well. And what I also
Edwards.
think is interesting is with certain guys, you bring them along slowly. To your point about him being smart, you learn one position, you master that, then you move to another. That's how Jeff Stoutland handles things on the offensive line, generally speaking. My understanding is Nakobe Dean is learning all 3 spots, or really, mainly Mike and Will, but he is being thrown everything because they think that he can handle everything. And I think what they can do, it's similar to what I was talking about at wide receiver, where you've got maybe 4 guys for 3 spots. I think they're going to be doing plenty of rotation between those 3 guys for those 2 spots in the defense. But I think Nakobe Dean's going to be on the field early.
I need you to look into your crystal ball again. I apologize in advance for making you look down the line. You like to take it step by step by step, as you just told us. But give us the next step. The Eagles released Craig James yesterday with 8 days to go before camp. They could have done it a week before, a month before, 2 months before. They could have waited a couple of days into camp and saw that he is or isn't in the best possible shape of his life. Why yesterday? What's the next shoe to fall?
I thought they had to clear a spot anyway. I thought they had 1 spot to clear. I could be wrong about that. But, I mean, they have
I get mixed up with Matt Leo. Is he still on the pathway? Is he still an exemption?
He is. He still has an exemption. But I thought that he counted against the 90, but not the 50, or not the practice squad. But I could be wrong about that. I like Craig James too. He was, solid, and he was a special teams captain in 2020. But they have so many corners. There was no chance that he was going to make this team. They want to see these young guys. I think, they would say that they're doing him a favor. That means that he can latch on somewhere else as camp starts. He doesn't have to join midway through. I think it's just a numbers crunch. It was sort of there's not going to be.
There's 13 corners on the 90-man roster, and they do. I mean, they spent a lot of money on undrafted free agents, and they brought in 3 corners.
Plus the guys they brought in last year. Like all those young guys, your Tay Gowans, your Kerry Vincents, your Mac McCains. Yeah,
and they talked about those guys up all off season. Then they get Bradbury. That's the thing. I mean, the Eagles give Fletcher Cox $14 million. Then they get Jordan Davis. They sign Kaiser White. Then they get Nakobe Dean. They get all these corners. And it kind of not necessarily were counting on it. And all of a sudden you got to readjust on the fly. Fletcher's an interesting player to me, Bo, because they rebooted the contract, but they gave him $14 million on top of it. So they got him on a year-to-year plan, but I can't get over that number. At $14 million, they expect him to be a big part of this defense, correct? Or am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. That's the one move of the offseason that didn't really make sense to me. And not because you don't need a defensive tackle. I mean, obviously you don't know that you're going to end up with Jordan Davis when you re-sign Fletcher Cox, but that number is nuts. To your point, like there were other solid defensive tackles who were still on the market when they re-signed Fletcher Cox and who were signed for, $7-8 million. Like, a guy like William Golston or something like that, who might not be quite as good as Fletcher Cox, but is comparable based on Cox's production last year. And the other thing that's sort of odd to me is, I mean, they love Fletcher Cox in the building. Howie gets to hold him up as one of his best draft picks. He's a sort of a franchise legend, but like, is he the best, good soldier? We've seen him like publicly questioning defensive stuff before. He always scoffs when being asked about production dropping. And given what they have now, I'm not expecting he's going to play quite as much. I think they're going to try to rotate those 4 defensive tackles with Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis to keep all those guys fresh. Like Milton Williams was really good last year. Like he needs to be on the field. And if that's at the expense of Fletcher Cox, I think that's fine. So we'll see how he handles that. They have a better sense of his locker room presence than I do, but that move to me, it's the one thing of the offseason that didn't make full sense.
All right, Bo Wulf, I'm going to give you one more shot here. I'm giving you more credit than you're willing to take, that you have an eye on the future, even though you say you don't write articles 6 weeks in advance.
All I'm focused on, Jody, is the most important thing as we enter training camp, defending my back-to-back roster prediction championship. That's the number one thing that everybody is paying attention to as we enter camp. Can he do the impossible?
And I'm going to be in second place. I'm going to be in second place, Bo.
Of course.
But the young guys don't seem to take it as seriously. I don't know. I can't get into it as much. But you're the champion. Maybe that's why I'm downplaying.
And Bo, don't kid yourself. It's rubbing salt in the wounds to McMullen. He is so pissed off that
I'm going to beat you.
Unbelievably so.
We
don't want to mention that while he's still
4 in a row. Could you imagine? I feel like they just send me to Canton if that happens.
Yeah.
16, all right, here's where I'm going to make you
practice squad.
Earn your living above and beyond. See, that's why I thought you'd have the answer for why the hell Craig James was cut yesterday. That you'd already know what the roster move was going to include. But I'll go in a different direction here. I'll give you $1,000.
Thank you.
But you have to wait.
I'll see you later.
You can't put it in your wallet. You can't fund your kids' college fund down the road. No. You have to turn around and wager it. And here's your bet. You can either get even money odds on the Eagles winning the NFC East or someone else winning the NFC East. You taking 3 for 1. The upset special with either the Commanders or the Giants, or the defending champion, which we know the defending champion has not won the NFC East, 17 consecutive years? Or you get the Eagles, where you're putting $1,000 to win the NFC East this year.
I'm definitely putting it on the field. I mean, I think it's like you probably would say that it's a toss-up between the Eagles and Cowboys. And you're also giving me the unlikelihood, but the possibility of 2 other teams. I'm just, I'm trying to make some money here, Jody. I would definitely go with the field just because, a quarterback injury, any other injury that's, to a significant player knocks things down for the Eagles. There are too many variables to go with the Eagles over the field, I think.
Yeah, but that injury to Jalen Hurts could just as easily come to Dak Prescott. And if that happens, the Cowboys are screwed too.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me who I think is going to win the division, I probably would say the Eagles, but I would definitely take the field over them.
That's a fair point. I think that's the smart bet, and he's a smart man, just like Nakobe Dean at Bo_Wulf. Read him at theathletic.com/Philly. One Spurs with Friends, the finale with our buddy Sheil Kapadia. You got to say goodbye.
Thursday night.
Say goodbye.
Thursday night at 8:00, our YouTube channel. We will be live with the 5th annual Osprey Awards, a Sheilabration to say goodbye.
Sheilabration. I love it.
Sheil.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Sheilabration.
And Jody, I'll send you my Venmo so you can send me that $1,000.
I will. But I'll be covering it. So when the Eagles win the division, I'm going to expect that $1,000 back.
Deal.
Bo, good stuff. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much. Since you're well dressed for it, go outside and have a catch. He's warming up. I like it.